Okay. Hey guys, apologies for that. I see that we made a switch here. I have a hotkey set up for my, let's see, are we good now? Yeah, we're good. Got my audio, got my music happening. Chrome is silent, but that's okay because there's nothing happening on it. Good to see everybody. Hope you're doing well. I have introduced some new changes to the visual of what we've got here. And so as a result, we're trying some new stuff. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're excited for today. I know I am. There's a ton of things I want to talk about. I'm excited to see what you guys want to talk about. And it's been at least 3 weeks probably since we've done a public live, so wanted to hop on today. I'm going to try and make sure Fridays are a day where I do lives. And I'm generally focusing on my members because they support the channel. They give me financial sort of encouragement to keep doing what I do. And so if that's interesting and you want more live content, you might want to check out my members page. Those guys are invited to every live. And also they get to drive some of the conversation because there's often more intimate setting there, like smaller group of people. And so if that's interesting, check it out. If not, come to the live ones when they're posted, or watch the edited content that comes from those lives. Okay. So yeah, I've got some new cool things happening. I got my, I got different scenes. I've got different setups. This is like a setup so I can watch YouTube content. If I want to watch like, Splinterlands, let me show you. If I want to watch Splinterlands on like a town hall clip, let's open that up. We're gonna get a commercial. Pause it right away. So if I want to get like a quote from Splinterlands town halls, I've got this scene here to capture that visually with the background. I'm pretty pleased with this. I spent a lot of hours this week just kind of figuring this stuff out technologically. You know, OBS it's quite simple actually, but let me say that differently. It's quite easy, but it's not simple. It's actually complicated, but once you start to recognize what has to happen, it's actually, relatively easy. So I got this one for watching YouTube clips. I got my main one for obviously playing the game or doing whatever. I've also got a display capture, which I'm going to use. I'm going to use the display capture to game. So every now and then I like to play Blizzard. I like to play StarCraft or Overwatch. And so I'll probably hop on and do that. And I even have, check this out. I've got a calculator app so we can do calculations together when we're crunching numbers to find those bargains. So hopefully this will be like a nice improvement for where we're at. And I'm not leaving right now, but just interesting. I have my starting. So I've got those two. A little bit of the starting soon, the be right back, and the ended screen. Just a bit of an upgrade. I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, let's hop into some stuff here. So I'm going to check them in the chat, say hello to you guys, but I came prepared with a few talking points, one of which is a bit spicy. And we'll probably start there so we can kind of hammer out like an interesting conversation right out of the gate. I got a spicy one for you from the comment section. So if that sounds interesting, definitely stick around. If you're just logging on or you're just checking in, drop comments. Let me know who's out there. Also, drop that like. Let people know. It's not every week that I do a live for the public, and therefore people who probably enjoy the content don't necessarily know I'm even on. I got the gimbal happening. There it is. Got the gimbal, got the lighting. Let's go. Okay. Yeah, so let's see. Oh, and I gotta hit my little restream. Oh, I didn't. Gotta kill the opacity. Boom. I should have set this up before I went live. I have I even got my like spicy from Alex maybe. gathering knows about some of those. Let's say some of those who bring the heat. Drop the appearance, always on top. Drop the opacity. Boom. There it is. It actually, you know what? I don't think this time it went around. It wasn't from Alex, which is interesting. Alex is having fun. You know what I mean? FBI Alex is having fun. He's disappointed with some of maybe what's happened. He's trying to take advantage on SPS. He actually said that in September we would see a big price decline from like when we were at like 0.04 tenths of a penny on the SPS. He said we were going to go lower in September. And of course we haven't. And so, you know, wish him well. But sometimes people bring that spice and that heat when things aren't going the way that they want. And for me with Splinterlands, Gathering, I know you know this. Battle Beast, I know you know this too. My view has never been days, weeks, months. It's always been, I've said this so many times, that these assets might carry meaningful value across a long time horizon. That's a phrase I used to use a lot because I always felt it was 4 or 5 years sort of process for bull markets to kind of come within crypto and for those opportunities to really blow up within Splinterlands. And so I always felt that was something that, you know, that was to be realistic, that was the window we were working within. And if that was the window we were working within, I wanted to be pragmatic and sort of thoughtful about that. I didn't want to feel like it was going to happen tomorrow. And I've stopped using that language a little bit because I actually feel like with crypto being where it's at, with Bitcoin being where it's at, with Ethereum doing what it's been doing, you know, with there's a broad economic picture happening in the world today, and I've been believing that this is going to happen sooner than later now. So that language has fallen away a little bit, but I've always said that. And yet some people in the space that follow Splinterlands or other games don't carry that approach and haven't carried that approach. And so their approach has been, I'm going to find the bottom, I'm going to sell the top. And sometimes when you go into that approach, what actually ends up happening is you just end up missing opportunities, or you end up, selling too high, selling too low, or buying too high. And you get frustrated because you need to see that quick turnaround. And I think often, maybe I'm not everyone, but often when we see people being critical or leaving or giving up, it's not necessarily out of something radical changed and broke their position or opinion about what Splinterlands is it? It's not. It's usually actually about, I was expecting my returns to happen sooner. They haven't happened yet. I'm now exhausted. And that approach to investing has never been my approach. My approach has always been enjoy the process and recognize that it's not going to be an overnight thing. And so I guess the final point I'll make on that before I again check in with the chat here, I don't know that we're going to have the success that I think we're going to have, but I don't put success for Splinterlands at 0%. And I don't think you do either. Is it 10%, 50%, 90% likelihood of a real moon? You know, each one of us has to have that conversation for ourselves. But for me, obviously, I walk in a great deal of confidence. And we're going to talk more about that. That's what the tone of the spice comes from. So let's just say hi to the chat and see what you guys who's checking in out there. And then, yeah, So I saw Alex Bernard. Thanks for popping by, bud. People still playing this game? Yep. I was saying I did a video recently with Tails, and Alex, you may want to watch it. It was like an hour-long conversation. Tails is I think I would use 2 words to describe Tails' perspective: data-driven and skeptical. And so if you say that, then maybe you want to hear somebody speaking about it who has that more maybe skepticism. But recognize that skepticism doesn't mean pessimism. Skepticism means like a serious critique and review of what the data that they can perceive. And so that's what I believe Tails provides, and I hope that that's what I provide too. It's just we end up when we crunch the numbers, we end up landing in a sort of a different place. But the place you land in isn't just on the data you receive; it's also on the person you are, your tolerance for risk, your perspective across time, your enjoyment of the process. And so it was a great conversation. You might enjoy it. Supreme Victory Studios, everyday brother, unless it's a holiday. Yeah. Splinterlands all day, every day, my friend. Paul, good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Supreme Victory Studios says, so you just enjoy his face. You wanted to, Alex Bernard wanted to pop by just to see me, I guess. When I got even on SPS, I sold. Alex sold on when he priced out, when he reached a level with his SPS, when his bag paid for his participation. And that's, you know, that's an interesting approach. I don't begrudge anybody. I've said about Splinterlands, one of the cool things is that you can sell. The opportunity to liquidate is one of the cornerstone elements of why this game is at all interesting. If you couldn't do that, it would be just like any other video game, Web 2, where you get nothing out of it. Like your points in the game don't mean something to real life. And so, you know, good for you, Alex. Battle Beast, glad to see you here, pal. And sorry I couldn't help you out with those pack openings. I would have, you know, if our schedules could have aligned. Gathering the Magic. I can't feature comments right now, although I probably could quickly add that piece. But I love dropping your guys' comments on the screen. I can't right now because I formatted my computer and I changed all my scenes, and so I don't have the feature right now. But I see you guys out there. Why not 123 hello, hello, hello. Oscu, good to see you, pal. Oscu is another one who's, again, same as Tails in many respects, logically driven, skeptical. And that's, again, skepticism doesn't mean pessimism. There can be confidence in the middle of skepticism. Skepticism means a thorough consideration of all things, and not just accepting, you know, not just, yeah, being prepared to review the evidence and find the answer, not to come with the answer. Bananas is out there again. Who else quickly? Yeah. Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome. Do me a favor, drop the like. Let people know. Okay, you know what? With this battle on the screen just wrapping up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition into a comment, and this is going to be the spice that we were talking about a minute ago. Close that out. Yeah. Okay. I'll bring up the comment, and then we'll go from there. So while I was preparing for this morning, one of the things I like to do before I go live is I like to, you know what, let's go 2. Let's go screenshot 2. Boom. Yeah, I like that. I like this, dude. Flip in between, and I still got my mic. Oh, I don't have the music on this line. You know what? Yeah, we do. No, we don't. We're going to quickly add. I can't while I'm live, can I? Okay, that's fine. So we're going to be here with no music for a moment while we talk. I got my music in my background anyways. Okay, so comment section. I come here to kind of get my head straight, to prepare for what is a talking point for today. And there are lots of things I'm interested in. I've been really, shout out to Silence. I've been really enjoying his content. And he's got that bargain hunting happening the last like week or two, a lot of shopping. And he's a good old Canadian boy too. So shout out to him. I've been enjoying his excitement. And I've been myself, like, really, the trigger finger is getting itchy. So I know where my head's at, but then I come to the comment section because I want to see where your heads are at. And of course, there is always a little bit of, let's say, concern, right? And so, for one thing, I see a comment here from Dan Robinson. Until we get off Hive blockchain and onto the chain that people actually use, and that has attention, Splinterlands will continue to stagnate and die. That's pretty dark. It's pretty like final, pretty, decided. There's not a lot of wiggle in that language. He feels pretty definitive about that. And many of you probably feel the same way. My viewpoint on that is, that might be valuable, but more importantly than translating the game onto a different blockchain, I think is moving some of the finances onto the different blockchain. This is not the spicy comment, but this is setting the stage for you. You can see that there are more than one person who are some degree of deeply concerned. He's saying we might stagnate and die unless we move blockchains. I want to say one thing about this, and we're going to move into a bigger comment, and that's the main that I want to focus on here. I'll say the one thing I want to say to Dan is that I don't think moving the game to a different blockchain is by itself this, like, let's say, silver bullet for success. I think it's a deeply complicated transition. It would be, a huge production element. It would be like, coding and development and team and, there's a huge cost there. And then so maybe what we would do is we would take money from from some sort of enterprise that works on Ethereum or whatever other blockchain to fund that transition. Well, then we would be giving up ownership and probably visionary direction for where the game is going to go. And so then, that might be good and it might be bad. Finally, I want to say one last thing on that. The idea that moving the game is the only sort of path to success is missing, I think, a key core idea. You can move from financial aspects, some of the tokenomics, into different blockchains and have them touch onto those other levels and then into those other spaces. And that can be a bit of what I think you're actually hoping for. You want to draw bigger eyes. You want to, reach out to different communities. You want to be seen and known and experienced by a broader base of player and investor. That is what I think you're ultimately pointing to. And if that's what you want, what we really want is have SPS and whatnot, and probably DEC, at least SPS, exposed onto those different blockchains. And there's ways to do that is already in the works. And when that happens, what I think we're going to find is that each of those respective on-ramps is going to have limited liquidity. And what that means is if there's not very much valuation in those pools, then what you end up finding is that there's going to be big sways in the price point. Why is that good? It's good because if we have SPS on Ethereum, we have SPS on Solana, we have SPS on wherever, and on one chain it's at 0.7 of a penny, and on one chain it's at 0.4 of a penny, what's going to happen? Trade volume is going to happen. Trade volume because arbitrage. Somebody wants to take that profit. They want to claim that by buying on the one chain and selling on the second chain. And that is attracting eyeballs. That is attracting attention. That is attracting purchase volume and investment because that wiggle room is profit room. And so that is necessarily what happens when you create multiple on-ramps, because you have different size liquidity pools across those different on-ramps, and that will drive some of what you're desiring, which is connection with those different links and maybe excitement on those different chains, and finally investment from those different chains. So that was a bit of a side note, but I really wanted the point I'm trying to drive at with coming at Dan before we go to the real spice is that, people have concerns. This is, even though myself and, maybe you guys in the chat and Silence have great excitement and we're buying, some people don't. Some people are deeply concerned, and I get it. But that's nothing compared to Parham. Parham says, do not advertise for Ponzi game. You and your YouTubers put people in 90% lose conditions, cards, SPS for years. So, I mean, this second piece I want to just address first and foremost. But there's a two-part conversation here. One, YouTubers put people in a losing condition. Do we? Do we take your money and invest it into something? It's like saying that the casino around the corner from you, or the stock market, app on your phone that's available through Google Play, you got Robinhood on your phone. Is Robinhood responsible, or is Google Play responsible because you take your money and spend it on something that is speculative in nature? You buy a house and the house goes down. Is the realtor responsible for your loss? If you invest in Splinterlands because Dwayne's excited about Splinterlands, is that Dwayne's fault? It's really, really ridiculous that people want to walk in this sort of self-soothing approach to their own choices. And so that's one piece of this, because I do think it's very important to hit that head on. People want to believe or want to suggest that their actions are anyone's fault except for their own. And that's the big core that I would love for somebody like Parham to see. I don't think he's going to see that. The second piece that I hope people like Parham, or maybe you guys will see, is that even when we look at what the lose, he says the 90% loss, let's say, on certain assets, if we recognize that if you look at crypto when it's in its bear market moment versus when it's in its bull market peaks, for a fact, the opportunity hasn't been seen in those moments. Like if we go back and look at Bitcoin when it's 3,000, the charts looked terrible. It had bled out from 20,000 to 3,000 and people said it was dead, it was dead, it was dead. And then it went to 75,000 eventually. And that example points us to the fact that there would have been a certain perspective in a moment when it was at 3,000 or 4,000 or even 10,000 where people were still critical, cynical, doubtful. And then it blows up and goes into 75,000, which is crazy and exciting, and everyone wants to buy it then and says it's going to go to 1 million. So the tension that I'm trying to point to is that we don't know if Splinterlands is going to have that bull market moment again. It has had one. We don't know if it's going to have another. I would lean towards saying yes, but each of us has to make a fundamental, thoughtful sort of exploration of that possibility for themselves, and they're responsible to do that themselves. And no one takes your money and no one takes your wallet and makes you buy anything, period, ever. And so even if you see someone else getting gains, what you're experiencing is called FOMO, and maybe you want to chase green candles because somebody else has green candles. All of that's just like jealousy or jealousy capitulation if you're moving from one token to another. The long story short on something like on the second piece of what you're talking about is we don't know. No one makes us buy anything. And then we don't know that there's a loss permanently until until we give up on the project. So there's a paper loss and there's a realized loss. If your tokens go down from, whatever your initial investment is to current day, that's a paper loss until you sell. If you believe that the project can still turn around and gain value and appreciate again and have a new bull market moment, then there is no loss, theoretically. And that's my perspective. That's my approach. Parham doesn't share it. Maybe you guys out in the chat don't share it. That is not a conversation about speculation. It's not a conversation about hope. It's not rose-colored glasses. It's a thought. It's a true statement about possibility. It's an objectively true fact that Splinterlands is not currently dead and could possibly go up again. Now, it's a subjective opinion that I think it's going to go up again, but it is an objective fact that it could. And so it's not a loss. It's not a loss until you sell. And so the question for me is it going to go up again? And for you and each of us, we need to kind of think through the team, their current position, their current runway, their future design plans, their ability to execute, maybe their past behaviors, all of that, to come to a final conclusion about whether we think it's going to turn in from a paper loss to a realized loss, because maybe you do sell. That to me is an important conversation to start with for a critic like Parham, and maybe for some of you. But it's less important than the first part. The first part where he says, do not advertise for a Ponzi game. He's talking about Splinterlands. He's saying Splinterlands is a Ponzi. And recently we've seen language like this actually from some of our own. In fact, in my conversation with Tails, again, respect to Tails. I said this to him. I say this about him. I've got great respect for him. But he speaks about Splinterlands and he uses the word Ponzi. He doesn't say that Splinterlands is a Ponzi. He says that a game needs to be fun in order to survive, and it doesn't appear there's many players, and in fact the player base is shrinking, and therefore maybe it's not fun, or that would be my conclusion. And he did say to me in a video that he doesn't really consider it fun anymore. At least it's not as fun as some of the alternatives and the competition out there now within Web3. That's all fair. But then to use the word Ponzi in the context of Splinterlands, as Parham is doing, or as even maybe to bring it up in conversation like Tails did, it's different, but they're still using the same word. It's important that we understand this is not a Ponzi. And I can explain why. I think most people who use that word don't know what they're talking about. And so I want to explain hopefully this will be like less than 5 minutes, but I think this is so important. A Ponzi is a thing where a project that takes your money and invests it in some way. Really, they're just taking your money. And then they get other people to invest because, hey, look at all the people investing. 100 people invest. You go to the 101 person, you say, look at all the people that have to invest. Why don't you invest too? Now there's new money coming in, and 102, 103, 1,000 people suddenly, and there can be this spike in new ingression of players or participants or quote unquote investors. And that money is actually just, all the new money is just going towards paying out the old people and who are then leaving. The important thing to understand with respect to Splinterlands or any blockchain-based video game or any business is that you could say, you could wrongly use that word to describe any business that is taking money from new investors. Like look at Netflix. Look at real estate, look at anything where you have to give value to the company to receive some service. The idea would be in Splinterlands that the assets are going to go to zero. That's core to the idea of what it would mean. The idea, Splinterlands as a Ponzi, it's only a Ponzi if it doesn't have intentions or capacity to develop or attract new adoption and new players. I'm going to say that again. Splinterlands is only a Ponzi if it doesn't have the intention or the capacity to attract new players. Because if we have the capacity to attract, and I don't mean trick new players, hear me, a Ponzi wants to trick new players or investors or participants to come in with no real path or intention to new justification for being there. That's the core difference. So we might disagree ultimately that Splinterlands has that value written within it. You might say it's not fun. I don't think it has a future. You might say that there's no intention from the team to develop something that's meaningfully entertaining, or that has some logical and justifiable path forward in the future. Those would be opinions, and I would push against them and say, well, the team is currently, employing several people that are literally designing new improvements all the time, and that are focusing actively on making it easier for players to get involved in the game, which is part of the joy of the game. Because if it's super cumbersome or difficult to get involved, it's less enjoyable to be involved. And so new packs are also a piece of the complexity, like the improvements, the design, the effort, the intention. Some say, well, new packs are just another thing they're selling me, another way that they're wanting my money. Okay, but that's true, but they're a business. So they're allowed to want to sell you things. And then it's up to you or me to say, do we see value in owning them? Do we think there's a path forward for the game, for the team? See, the distinction I'm trying to make is when we use this word and we say it towards Splinterlands, what we're actually saying is not that the new players, we're not stopping at the idea that the new players are buying assets from the old. That's the thin connection between these two concepts. But the deeper idea that people are, I think, the mistake they're making is that they're not acknowledging that Splinterlands is making efforts to improve its game design, to improve the satisfactory and experience that players have, the joy we get to have within it, by expanding on whether like tactics is a new element to the game, or the evolution of what land will be, or the guild brawl experience, or summoners and bringing gladiators into the thing. All of new cards that are being created and creating new synergies. All of that is adding complexity and intrigue to some who like it. Now, Parham or you might not find those things fun or entertaining. And that's okay. But it's so important and frustrating for me to hear people draw this connection without understanding that the distinction is a Ponzi is something where they are literally, there's no intention or desire or effort or plan or ability to draw a place of victory for you. Like there's no path forward. It's literally take more money to pay old and claim and to benefit myself. And I think you're being insincere if you're saying that Splinterlands is doing that. I don't think you can be sincere, earnest, reasonable, and claim that Splinterlands is doing that right now. I think clearly, even with Matt, the CEO, like taking a really small amount of money to do this thing, and then taking on a job he doesn't enjoy to help the game keep going forward. All of that points towards, to me, sincere effort, deep investment and concern about the success of what this is, and a hope and a longing to make it better than it is today, tomorrow. And so you might disagree that it's going to get there. That doesn't make it a Ponzi. A Ponzi is something entirely different. And so that language it's so loaded with negative connotation, and it's so inappropriate in that it doesn't actually describe what the team is doing. I hope that was valuable for you to hear. I think it's deeply important for our community to understand that, because I think in the moments of salt like this, where SPS is lower than, it's at 0.7 of a penny or whatever, and people are frustrated, as I pointed to with the first comment from Dan, some people have concerns about the blockchain. Some people have concerns about the team's funding. Some people have concerns about, the ebb and flow of game design. Like, we're focused on land, and we're focused on new player experience, and we're focused on whatever else. I think a lot of that white noise, because it is white noise driven by sentiment, our sentiment in this moment based on the prices at this time. And when we get to a place, if we get to a place where prices start to tick around, all of that drops away, because they don't really have thoughtful positions. Like, people that say these things don't have deeply thought out theses or hypotheses about why their position is correct. They have sentimental opinions about why this isn't going to work, or why the team is malicious, or why negative sentiment, negative talking point A. And so in order to kind of hopefully help those who are willing to listen, I feel like it's important to have that conversation around, what does that even mean? What does that word even mean? And how does it relate or not relate to Splinterlands? It's pretty spicy out there, guys. And it's not just Alex. I'm going back to the chat here. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Come back into... Okay. How are legendary totems 1,000 and Rooney are 400? Are legendary totems $1,000? I want to see that. Market. Other items. Okay. Legendary totems, $2,000. Legendary totem claim. Hang on. What the? Wow. For real? In my opinion, land is being overlooked. I mean, I think everything's being overlooked right now. Maybe not validator nodes. Even, you know what? Even validator nodes. I actually would like to get validator nodes again. I want vouchers. I want to have access to them for the voucher cards that are being dropped and that will continue to be dropped. Another example of growth within the game recently, a new offering that the team is offering that we asked for, that they're providing. So again, another example of how they're pushing the needle forward to improve what the players offer, what the players want, and improve the complexity and hopefully the enjoyability of both the game and the game within the game. The game being the collectible card game, the auto brawler, but then the game within the game being the financial management of whatever assets you've got to buy certain cards or SPS bags, etc. So 2,000, frankly, that is so far beyond my capacity. Like, to buy a $2,000 totem is so crazy to me, especially when a tract of land is 11. See, this has gone up though. Like the other day, this was about 8,000. And that's with this many for sale. That's what happens. Like, there's just such a limited, there's such limited supply. Like, if that sells, oh, Darkstar. I actually wish I could help you out there, Darkstar. I really do. Honestly, I'd love to have a tract, like a full tract. I would love that. And I would love that. I would love to help out Darkstar. But for me, my investment approach hasn't changed. My approach cannot change until my other investments bloom. I recently did buy $400 worth of cards, or $300 worth of cards, and $100 worth of SPS, which isn't a huge amount of money for maybe some people, but for me it was like, I'm taking 6 month leave off work, so I'm on EI, which is like in Canada we get a certain amount of time to be with our children when we adopt or have biological children. You guys know I adopted a young son, and so I'm on reduced income, and so for me $400 is meaningful. Also, it didn't just come out of my bank. It came out of profitability from the real world. I don't know if you guys know this, maybe some of you will, but I am like a long-term proponent of silver and gold as a worthwhile hold. And so, look at this over the last, let's see. This is the history of silver. Let's go. When did I start? I started buying around $12. So somewhere, maybe in 09, it might have been okay. It might have been 2015. I can't remember, to be honest. Did I run this wave? No, I didn't run that wave. So it must have been right in here. It must have been somewhere in here. I think it might have been there. So in May 2020, I started buying silver because ever since 2008, I've felt confidence that what the U.S. government is doing is not going to lead to, financial stability and what happens with the American financial institution and economy will have ripple effects for the world. And so I've been a long-term proponent of silver and of gold. And, I've seen some pretty big candles from $12 to $30+ 31, 32. And I recently did liquidate a little bit because I wanted to enjoy that. Also, we had a van thing happen. We have a wheelchair van for our little Lumina, and muffler went, and also the brakes went, and also something with the engine. So a lot of big expensive stuff that has happened recently, and EI. So real world successes move into real world debt paying off, but also reinvestment. Like if I get a 3x on my silver, which I did roughly, I take a little bit of that profitability and I realize it into the real world, and then a different amount of that, and I put it back into something else I feel excited about. And so yeah, I bought some cards. I didn't buy any land, but I am curious about it, man. I am actually, that's one of the things I wanted to do today, pop on Peak Monsters and see where the lands are at. Last I saw, they're about $10 for a common. Look at that, $8 common with nothing on it. I mean, if these were in my territory, I'd be interested, but pretty much people don't sell out of gank land. Let's see, region 23. So there we are. Like, this is the first, look at this. Defiz is selling one, a couple. These are commons, $60 price point. If you get into the right tract region, you're aligned with the right people. You're not in the same ecosystem as the rest of Pretoria. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're in Pretoria in the right region with the right leadership, with the right community, people that are all driving at the same place and the same development and, working on research, etc. That's a different story than if you're in some tract by yourself with no one else and no other region, people are participating in the region. And so I'm excited about land, and almost more excited because no one else is talking about it. Like it's on the back burner. We're hearing that it might be, in fact, you probably heard, most of you watched, I bet, Baron's Toolbox Axo Twin Blade dropped that video talking about why he sold his assets in Splinterlands, and a big part of it was land. The setting back of land and saying, it was supposed to be a priority and now it's not a priority and we're moving away from it, and it seems like maybe 2025, but probably 2026. Those are his predictions. And so if that's so, I would just want to buy more and more land, like as that settles. Because no matter what we feel in this moment, if it actually takes a year and a half for land to get to land 2.0 items and spells, for instance, you're going to see price declines on land. And that's because there's a lack of sex appeal there. There's like no immediate reward. I go in my land, I click on production, and I go ahead and I just go harvest all. And I click this one, this one, this one. I'm not even going to do it right now because I already did it yesterday. And that's another thing. You only have one action every 7 days or whatever, 6 or 7 days. It's only the beginning of something. And so again, there's so much room for growth and improvement, and complexity is going to come, and development's going to come. And, at least I think it's going to come. And so I would be well interested in buying more of it and activating more plots of land, but real world things have to happen. Whether that's my other crypto holdings, finding some green, or whether that's XRP down again. I mean, everything's down now. So this is it. Like we're all on the same train. Either we're going to see a crypto bull market, like an altcoin bull market. I'm not talking about Bitcoin now. Either we're going to see an altcoin bull market and it's going to affect all coins like we've seen in the past, or it's not going to happen. If it does happen, Splinterlands has a real interesting opportunity to ride that wave. Do you agree with that or not? Do you think that Splinterlands has fundamental considerations that point it towards the possibility of success, not the promise of success, but the possibility of it? I like those odds. To me, for my money, not for your money, not for you, but I like those odds. And if there was ever a place where there was no risk, you're not going to have any reward opportunity. It is so crazy to think that you can enter something with no risk and have massive gains. That seems to be what people want. And that doesn't exist. What exists is thoughtful consideration of risk assets, risk on, volatile, but recognizing volatility is opportunity. If you can navigate the pathways and find, weed through all the crap and find the good. Some will say I'm wrong about Splinterlands being one of the good. We'll see. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to be scared away by Parham. His comment doesn't spook me about, or even Dan with, we got to believe Hive or we're going to die. Okay, I hear you. I've thought about those things too. I've given great thought to, your opinions on those things, not because you raised them, but before you raised them, because I'm thoughtful about these things. But at the end of the day, I feel strongly about my convictions with respect to where we are at, where we have been, and where we might go. To me, there's something revolutionary in nature offered in blockchain-based video gaming. Splinterlands is beneficiary of that. And I like the exposure to that. Period. Okay. So many comments. You guys are awesome. I'm going to try and rip through a few without getting bogged down. We're going way back here. Oscu, third in the guild brawl within the guild with the 3-3 result. We got eaten up, bro. Yeah, dude, that was a tough one. We were in tier 5 this time, guys. Got our butt. I actually didn't look at the fulls, but I watched 3 of my battles and I won 2 of them. Maybe I'll show you some of those because they're pretty cool battles. I'm fighting off the giants in this game. We'll look at those in a minute. Gathering, no one is buying the legendary totem. It's been there for months. Gathering the magic. Battle Beast said that's okay. Makes more sense. Magic says common and rare totems are selling, but slowly. I've been playing G3-2. I don't know what that is. I see. Gold 3 or 2 with a rented Chaos Legion deck. This has been quite fun, I think you're saying, to be honest. And for 650 DC, yeah. I was covering the rental market recently, Oscu, and it's there's opportunities in there. There's some really, really cheap cards. Now, if even 10 of us went out and copied and tried to rent to play, you start eating up that rental market. There's no supply. That's the thing. There's no card supply. People talk about there's too many cards. There's none on the market. No, almost none. There's like 5, 10 copies of this card or that. And when you look at the rental market, it's even thinner. And so while Oscu is getting some deals and I get some deals from time to time, if everybody wanted to do it, if even 10 people or 100 people wanted to do it, there'd be no supply and the card prices would spike because you would see, that it has an impact. If you rent a card for 10 DC a day, you could rent that all year round, no problem. If those cheap ones go away and now it's 1,000 DC a day, well, maybe I buy it. And that's the sort of thinking that sparks where rental prices rise, card sale prices rise, and all that usually coincides with SPS, at the same time. Ree and Dave, good to see you. Long time. Isn't going anywhere. So gathering the magic Splinterlands isn't going anywhere. We will either keep plodding along with updates and no real explosive growth, or we will take off when we get player and environment mode. Environment mode would be cool, where we have like you essentially fight off against some sort of NPC, I think is what you mean. Like there's some sort of element, like a different game experience. Yeah. Mario, good to see you. Fusion Sound, everything is a Ponzi scheme. Everything is a Ponzi scheme in the way that people often use that word. Meaning, I buy something because I want to make money off of it, and I want to sell it to somebody else who is a fool. That's the implication. Like you buy a house because you want it to go up and you want to sell it to somebody, some greater fool. That's what people will say. They say that about Bitcoin. They say that about property. They say that about, you know what I mean? That's the nutshell. But if you really understood what it meant, the phrase meant, you would know that the intention of the developer within Bitcoin, within Splinterlands, within property, within that realm that you're talking about investing within, their intentions matter. Because if there's future growth possible and planned and can be executed, then that should mean that there's actually reason for new players to come, not just to chase after green candles, but actually joy and entertainment and investment opportunities. So that's the line that they don't get. If someone pre-sold me a house years ago and still hadn't delivered it, I would be pretty annoyed. You know what, Bananas? Fair. That's a big piece of this conversation. And maybe I want to rip through some more comments, Bananas, but I want to give you a real serious response on that, because you're right about a piece of that. Because in some ways, the Splinterlands element is worse than some of those other opportunities that I talked about. And so then it leaves a bad taste. For instance, Land 2.0 is just around the corner. Or I just did a video talking recently about how Land has been is it going to fail? Is it dead? And so you might want to check that one out if you didn't already, Bananas. But the idea is it was launched in 2020, I think. And so we're going on I think it's 5 years. 5 years. Next month, it was October, is 5 years. And so that's a long time for it not to literally be nothing still, almost nothing. Like, I think I'm being sarcastic a bit, but it's pretty underwhelming, the Land experience. And so you go, look, I bought all this land and I expected it to be, and you promised. But here's the thing I want to say about that. Two things. One, the crypto bull market last time around, it just, unfortunately, it was a missed opportunity. It was misused, or development didn't go the right way, or I don't know. I don't understand the behind the scenes of what went on there, but Splinterlands did drop the ball with respect to, how do I want to say that? They dropped the ball with respect to focusing on the core of what matters, and instead they chose to broaden out their scope and vision. And that meaningful distinction sent us down 5 pathways instead of one, really amazing pathway. If the game design had been really figured out 5 years ago, instead of land promises and airdrops and, new packs and, et cetera, and new games, by the way, like, tower defense, moon carts, GLG, and the vision to do not just soccer, but like every other game under the sun, right? They said every sport. There was such this broad vision for what we could reach. And while I do think we can reach those things and maybe we should aim there, we aimed too far for that moment. And so I'm saying to you, Bananas, that I think the real failure isn't that these things haven't happened. It's that these things were promised in a moment when they couldn't have been, or maybe shouldn't have been promised. Aggie promised cashed a lot of checks, or Aggie wrote a lot of checks. And you know what? Respect to Aggie. I'm not one of the people that hate on Aggie. I actually have a lot of respect for him, but he made a lot of sales. He made a lot of promises. He made a lot of vision pitches that got everybody excited. And then he didn't, or the team didn't, let's be more clear, either have the capacity or the ability or the time to make them a reality. And so too many things were promised and none were provided. Now Matt comes in the last year, and I think you'll admit, Bananas, we've really gone back to what we need to make progress. What are we going to do? Stop making promises, start making plans. And I think that's been true. I believe that's been true under Matt. And I think that is going to lead to development. It's going to lead to finalized products if we can patiently wait. You do have to, everyone should probably think about whether that is going to be, are people going to be patient to get there? That is one of the factors for the long-term sustainability of Splinterlands. But I think the answer is yes. I think we get through that. Okay. Too many comments. I can't possibly read them all. You guys are amazing. Paul, the number you have to look at is how much the last one was sold for. Doubt anyone is buying a legendary totem for that price. Yeah, for the 2000. You're right. Red X was talking about owning land on Meta and somewhere else. I think people are and will be again deeply excited about virtual land experiences. I don't think we've scratched the surface for what blockchain-based video gaming is going to bring to long-term investment strategies in the world. I think it's that meaningful. I don't think I'm exaggerating. I don't think I'm, I think this is going to change the world. Now, Splinterlands might not be the first and foremost of that. I do think it's a good example. I'm excited to see where it'll go, but I'm so confident that this space has an ability to run in a wild way. I saw a comment here. Gathering says, switched all my land to grain, harvest my grain, convert the DC, buy stuff. Interesting. Then it says, yeah, I only do grain now too. For some reason, I only work one plot with the extra Rooney. The selling your grain is interesting. I've got like 10 million grain. I've been thinking I would hold it. But now with the projections around land being pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, it might make sense to liquidate. It might. Here's the 30-second pitch for that. If there's going to be another year and a half of grain production with almost no other development for land, you're going to see crazy amount of grain growth. There's going to be less and less need for it within the game because everyone's got their own supply that they've harvested over that year and a half. And so the price should go down and down and down. Supply grows, demand stagnates or goes down, and so the price goes down. That's probably the path forward with grain if we're looking at 12 to 18 months of non-development or lack of development within land. But if we get surprised with land development in 1.6 or 1.7 or 2.0 coming faster than maybe people think, I think that could change too. And there are different mechanisms that can be implemented for grain burning that would really sort of eat away at the total supplies. But you might be right, Gathering. You might be right that you make that move. Now, if everybody, myself included, start liquidating grain, you'll see even more rapid price decline, which might make it sort of moot, right? Like if it gets to a place where it's not that much money, you maybe don't do it again. It depends. I usually do some sort of swap thing with Hive Engine like BTC. Okay, State of Survival. Chicken Little told me that the sky is falling. I want to ask, how do you guys put money into the game or even into crypto? Do you take the long way around and get credits with a credit card and then convert to DC, then SPS? What do people do? State of Survival, the approach that I do every single time is I use Coinbase to buy my cryptocurrency. I buy Litecoin. So I have my bank linked to my Coinbase. I send fiat currency to my Coinbase account. I buy a certain amount of Litecoin because it has very low transactionary fees, and yet it's fast. And then I'll send it over to Hive Engine, where you can swap Hive Engine, hiveengine.com, and log in. Okay, so you log into hiveengine.com using your Hive keychain, and then you come into wallet, deposit, and you can send whatever token you want here BNB, Bitcoin, BCH, you know, look at all these different coins. Litecoin's one of them. See, you can send Litecoin to yourself, get a Litecoin deposit address, and then that'll get deposited onto your Hive Engine wallet. Takes, you know, depending on the time of day and the busyness or whatever, maybe it takes half an hour, maybe an hour at the most. Like that, you know, it takes time for Coinbase to take care of their side and Hive Engine to recognize and acknowledge the receipt. But within an hour, you're going to have that. And once you have that, you can go in here and do swap. And once you go swap, if you're talking a couple $100, $1,000 even, you can swap without much slippage. So watch this. If you take Litecoin and let's say you wanted to go into DEC, dark energy crystals. So how many Litecoin can I sell into DEC without slipping? You know, if I have one Litecoin, that's 62 US dollars. Look, I'm getting 62 US dollars worth of DEC back. There's almost no slippage there. What if I go 5 Litecoin? 5 Litecoin is $300, $314, and I get 311 back. There's negligible slippage there. What if I go 10 Litecoin? $600 US, 629. 629 US dollars, 10 Litecoin. I'm going to get $590 back. So you're starting to see slippage if you're buying multiple hundreds of dollars worth of the asset. But if you were trying to make major moves where you're doing more than $100, $200, $300, if you're trying to do more than $300, what you would want to do is you would want to do this. Maybe you would do Litecoin, and then maybe you would do Bitcoin. No, that wouldn't work either because you start to eat up. Maybe it would. Maybe it would. What happens there? If I go... I'm not sure. What I'm trying to figure out right now is whether or not there's like a certain amount of DEC allocated to buy Bitcoin and another amount of... I don't think so. I think it's just X amount of DEC. Yeah. Looks like there's about $3,000 worth of DEC available. And so that affects your ability to really buy. But if you want to do $300 or less, you're going to have no real problem. And so you would use Litecoin to do that, or at least I would. And then you move, and to finish that thought, you then go into your wallet and you just grab your DEC and you send it. Actually, no, you don't even do that anymore. You come into this wallet in the game and you go, it'll say you've got some in Hive Engine right there. And you would hit transfer and you would move it from Hive Engine into the game. That's it. That's the best way. That's the easiest way. I don't know. I don't ever use credits, at least. I don't know. I don't see any value in using credits. I guess you would use credits if you didn't have access. If you wanted to use PayPal or crypto and you didn't have a pathway into, if you had crypto, you'd just buy DEC. Why? But I don't think there's any positive benefit to buying credits. It's like, it's a more restrictive, less, it's a more restrictive asset. And so I think you would only really do this if you don't have your bank account set up to touch to some sort of crypto exchange. And Bananas agrees with me. That's what he does too. Status file. So you either, yeah. Other crypto. Okay. Bree and Dave. Bree and Dave have been here forever. Correct me if I'm wrong. Bree and Dave, you guys, I think it's Bree and Dave is like husband and wife, I believe. First of all. Second of all, I think you guys, you were here back in like Untamed just sold out, Chaos was exploding. Then I think you maybe took a bit of a hiatus at some point there. But what I'm reading here is, Bree and Dave says, I started moving other crypto in, but lately been using PayPal, buying cards and selling or burning them. Yeah. So he's moving assets around and moving back in. It sounds like that's cool. I'm asking because I'm not a crypto person, so I don't have ETH or anything to get SPS or anything like that. Yeah. Follow what I gave, the directions I gave you there. Oh, you know what? I see Dehoda in the chat. I see Dahoda in the chat, and I saw a comment on the channel that Dahoda was covering. So let me switch over on my scenes here, and then let me pull up a comment from Dahoda. Where'd it go? There he is. I would love to have Dahoda on sometime soon. We'll make it happen. I also think there's a subset of people that enjoy management style games. This is a conversation I was having with Tails, and this is what and Tails is in the chat too, so shout out to Tails. We were talking about, among other things, what are the metrics by which we can measure the success and the enjoyment that people are walking in as they play this game? Is it strictly the number of accounts that are playing the game? What about the accounts that are, if they play 20 games a day, are they enjoying it? What if they only play land? What if they don't play either, but they buy the assets and they just speculate on them? What about if they play within the liquidity pools? There's different ways to understand the appreciation for what Splinterlands is. I told you earlier, and you know this, there's a game that we watch. It's an auto brawler. It's a collectible card game that is itself the game of Splinterlands. And people say that's boring. They don't understand the complex nature of the tokenomics. They don't understand the give and take of all of the sort of opportunity within. Like I said earlier, I've been watching Silence on his channel. I think it's called Silence. He great content. He's been doing bargain hunting videos, and he's been saying in the last week he finds deals and he's selling them for double the price. $5 cards, sell it for $10. Flipping that's flipping cards. There's a pathway to enjoying what Splinterlands is, the ecosystem of Splinterlands, without enjoying the auto brawler mechanic. And understanding that there's different attractions that are here within this is an important thing in understanding the value proposition of what Splinterlands is. So I made a little bit of that point with Tails, because he was saying, maybe the number of players is dropping. I said, yeah, maybe in some ways that we look at it, but first of all, it's come up a lot from where it used to be, because we used to have like dozens of players, like maybe 300 people. And now we have probably 3,000 to 5,000 people, according to information I've heard, in that neighborhood of 4,000 to 5,000 daily active accounts that are actually apparently presumed to be people. That's something I heard Splinterlands tell me. I don't know how they measure that data. I don't know how they sort of ascertain whether it's a real human person engaging or not, but that's information I received. Is that huge? No, it's quite small. But again, how do we measure success? Is it just active battles? Is it active accounts? Is it real human players? Is it people who are playing? Do they have to play 20 games a day? How do we measure it? Dahoda says, I think there is a subset of people that enjoy management style games. I like playing my brawls and enjoy the game, but I much prefer all my alts with renting cards and renting SPS and spending the glint, etc. There's a lot of facets to this. Yeah, automation on an account allows you to step away from the game mechanic and enjoy the game within the game. And so I think it's important to understand and appreciate that, or we're not really giving Splinterlands a fair shake as we understand or attempt to understand what it's offering its player base. It's not just an auto brawler. That's only the surface. And people who think that's what it offers are actually missing a big piece of it. Maybe they're misunderstanding a big piece of it. And maybe that's part of why, maybe that's a marketing piece, like challenging the community and the broader people who don't know about us yet to recognize it's not just this thing where you pick 6 cards and, face off against an opponent. It's this complicated general manager experience where you have a certain budget and you go into the marketplace and you acquire certain assets, and some assets are totally they're either out of your price range or they're literally not purchasable. Those constraints put a pressure on that general manager, you, to formulate the best possible functionality with the, the greatest discernment possible within the, with scrupulous, attention to the costs, versus the rewards of each choice you're going to make. That's interesting to me, man. If anybody ever liked hockey pools, football pools, you are the type of person that might enjoy the game within the game of Splinterlands. If you know what I mean? If you like spreadsheets and data analysis and finding opportunities also that others can't because you want to scratch and claw to sort of put yourself ahead. These are different sort of personality elements that might mean if you understood what this game really is, you might enjoy it bigger than what you possibly currently do. Tales from the Cryptmancer. The lack of liquidity is a challenge for attracting new whales to Hive. Yeah, it is. You're right. But for every barrier that we see in any sort of place where you can put money, somebody said this about, I used to do a lot of research around flipping houses. I never actually did it, but I really deep dived into that financial opportunity. And the one thing I remember that really stuck with me, and I've thought about so many times, and it applies to your comment, Tails, is this: other people's problems are opportunities for your profit. If there's a seller of a house and it's got like a leaky roof, they don't know how to deal with it, they're going to sell that they're going to be more eager to sell it, which means they're going to drop their price into a more aggressive way, which means you might benefit by picking it up for cheaper. And that's okay as long as you can solve that problem. So other people's problems are your profits. And the same is true with respect to the comment that you're driving at, where you go, low liquidity, whether it's in the card market or the SPS market or the DEC market, is going to be a barrier to whales coming into the game. Yes and no. Yes, because if I wanted to bring $1 million into Splinterlands today, that's just not a thing. You'd have to, there's no place where you go and click buy. You don't market order $1 million purchase into Splinterlands. But if you're that kind of guy or girl and you're eager to move into Splinterlands in that kind of way, there are paths. So you need to be the sort of person that sees that problem and says, I'm going to find a way around it, because I know that problem means others are going to go ahead and stop. Other big investors, like you're saying to, they're going to stop. That's a hurdle. It's an impediment. They're not going to keep going, even if they're interested. Maybe it's 9 out of 10 people say, no, okay, the barriers are too significant. I'm done trying. And what about if 1 in 10, in fact, I think this is probably happening. 1 in 10 maybe go, I'm going to find my way to turn that problem, someone else's problem, they can't get into my profit. Meaning I'm going to move in a big way. And behind the scenes, it's probably over the counter. It's probably, directly with the team. You look at people like Crypto Eater. Crypto Eater, if you've heard his story, he's a really big whale in Splinterlands, huge SPS holder, as well as massive card collection, or other people like him. They didn't just show up and fat finger a trade for $1 million worth of assets. They came in and they made themselves known. Probably, from my understanding of Crypto Eater, I don't know him personally, but there's conversations that happen with him and Matt. There's an understanding from Matt about who he is or what he's done in the past. He bought a bunch of DEC, acquired a bunch of SPS. He became a real significant player by seeing an opportunity that others didn't. And so then you start to grab the ear of different people and having conversations. You lead to a place where he actually would buy assets from others. You want to sell your whole set? I'll buy it off you for a 20%, 30%. I don't know what some kind of discount. You want out and you got a huge set? I'll buy it today. And then he would make profit by selling off those things. And that happens in the corporate world too, right? Your problem is my profit. And so some whales will be turned away by the complexity and the hurdles that are in their way from stepping into a game like Splinterlands, because they can't buy $1 million worth of cards today without absolutely crushing the market and doing all kinds of loss. I showed you on the Hive Engine wallet earlier, if you want to move $300 worth of assets into DEC right now on the Hive Engine market, you're going to see a little bit of slippage. $1,000, you're going to see significant slippage. And so you're right, Tails, that's a barrier to certain investors. But real thoughtful people who are serious about this can turn those problems into profits. People like Crypto Eater are an example of the people that are doing that right now, or that have done it in the past. And so that's still true. And I bet those people are quietly doing that in the background. In fact, I think PJ is a bit of that story too, by the way. PJ, I forget his role at Splinterlands. He wasn't a gamer. I did have a chance to speak with him. And from what I recall of his story, it was like, he didn't come to this from like, I love this game, or he came to it from like, I'm interested in what this could be, and from a crypto project standpoint. And so he doesn't buy the cards and play the game and, invest in that way. But another example of a person who's coming into the space through maybe a backdoor means, and I don't say that in any nefarious way. I mean, like in a non-traditional way. You got big money, you're interested in being present in this space. You're not going to press buy. You're going to go and have conversations. You're going to find your ways into it. So yes and no. Yes and no. Probably clip that for later because I think that's important. What else? The Hoda, that's why I'm eager for JP and Clay to find, I think it's PJ, for PJ and Clay to find those ETH L2 bridges for SPS to make it easier for those whales to enter our ecosystem, but also to have the confidence that they can exit too. You're right. You're right. And that ties nicely together with the prior conversation. Right now, there are barriers that will eventually be alleviated if we end up going where we plan to go. Maybe we won't make it there, but Dahoda's right. Things are in the works to try and create opportunities for those on ramps and off ramps. It can't be just on, it's got to be off too. It's also expensive to on ramp into Hive and SPL without using credit card. Yeah. CTO. Okay. Dahoda says, PJ's the is it? Anyways, he's the CTO. And Banana says, years and years ago, I used to rent an entire alpha deck from Crypto Eater for like 1,000 DEC for a season or something like that. Yeah, he's been around that long. And he bought people's decks. That was part of his story. He covered it on People's Guild a while back, on maybe the first ever visit with him. It was an interesting story. He really, he just saw some value here. And he started, people wanted liquidity. He took some, I guess he's a crypto guy from outside of this game. And so he took some of that valuation and said, yeah, I'll buy some of these decks if you're going to give me a good deal on it. And people want to leave and they don't want to mess around with the market. So they just go, again, other people's profit or problems are your profit. If I need to leave Splinterlands today, guys like Bulldog leaving, Axo Twin Blade, less so, but people like them leaving, what do? They just go in and I guess they have to manage their account and sell one item at a time and wait and reprice. And it's annoying. Or you go and you just say to somebody on Discord, anyone want to buy my entire set? And then you start negotiating with somebody. Well, I'll give you 50% of its, sticker price. And so that's how real money can move in without necessarily these sort of obvious on-ramps. It's not desirable that we restrict them. I'm just saying that while we are currently not entirely prepared for their easy on-ramping, we can still understand and we should be clear that they are still finding their ways in when and if they believe that makes sense. Real money's not scared of like the challenges They weigh the challenges versus the opportunity, and they make a decision. Challenges are a factor in a calculation. Opportunity, outlook, fundamental considerations are a offsetting consideration or a balancing act between the challenge, the hurdle, the difficulty. If there's enough profitability, enough future prospective profitability, they're gonna endure some inconvenience. Everyone is the same in that realm, but everyone has a different metric by which that prospective profitability justifies, let's say, the hurdle or the volatility. Everyone has a certain calculation. The inputs are slightly different for every participant though. Rooney 207, PJ came into SPL via contractor. PJ never participated in SPL ecosystem like CryptoEater. That's what I mean. He came in through conversations as a contractor, and now as I understand it, he's got investment in SPS. I think. I don't know if that, I think I understood him correctly in saying he didn't come to this as a gamer. He came to this as an investor. And so there are ways on that are non-traditional that maybe start with conversations more than they do going to the marketplace. Okay, I wanted to see those guild brawl battles. And if you guys have more comments that you want to drop in there, please feel free to do so. But I'm going to look at some comments. Some guild brawl battles, because there was some heat out there today. Guys, do me a favor. Drop the like. 25 concurrent viewers. And appreciate all of you. What do we got for likes? 14 likes. Do me a favor. Help us out. Let the people know. Okay, so yeah, we'll load up some guild brawl battles. Where are we at on? Okay, we got the music rolling. Cool. Guilds. Brawls. So this just ended. I went 3-3. Yeesh. Okay. So this is our guild. Horsebox went 4-2 and he led the way. Crypto Bish 4-2. Ethereal Shadow 3-3. Darkstar 3-3. Ducha Neo 3-3. Young Eagles 3-3. Guy from Ajax 3-3. Big Dutch Infidel. There we are. Luini Kisa. Look at this. Olables and Dorbrata. Oh, Necro. Were you in a tough one over there, Necro? Karamuo 2-4. Calamir. These are some heavy hitters, guys, and they're rocking 2-4s. 1-5 from Gons. Banjogi. Blaze. Ooh. Ew. Blaze just picked up a new gold foil. I hope you submitted your brawls. If you boys submitted your brawls and still lost, I get it. I'm checking you, Blaze. I'm auditing right now, buddy. Looks like you submitted them. Yeah. Let's look at this. This is the new card he just picked up. I saw on X he got this. So what do you got going on here? He's got the level 3 gold foil Yoden versus the level 3 this guy, hey? And you're going melee. That's the problem. He's got the thorns. And he's got more speed than you too. You got the blast damage though. How do you lose this one? For real. Oh, I guess because the thorns alone is just enough. And you got enough hit points too on the big boys over here in the repair. Yeah. If you could have got if you could have just right there procced a bloodlust, that might have changed something. Because then the next hit would be bigger with the blast, right? Going from 4 to 5 would be 3 adjacent blast damage. And now Vina just lost a kill that she could have had. And now, meanwhile, Bertrell is leveling up down here. The wall is falling, but Vina is not strong enough. I'm still kind of surprised you're not pulling this one out. Was I wrong and this was a victory? And I guess the repair? Oh, that's what happened right there. So now you're going to hit Vina. If Vina didn't go down right there, you get one more. You might have killed Bertrell. And then if Bertrell went down, Reflection Shield. No, I guess the repair would. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, Inevitable's an amazing card, eh? An amazing card. But these are some deep accounts that we're facing off against. Let me show you some of my bells. I only did 6. Let's watch them. Oops, not conflict. Guilds, brawl. So I fought off again the man himself, Nate Aguila, I think. And I submitted all my battles last night at like 1 in the morning before I went to bed. And let me try and walk you through what I was thinking with this one. I'll pause it when we see the rule set. So low mana, white, red, and black. Commons only, 19 mana. I don't have Lorcus, so it wasn't even in consideration. But I certainly love Lorna Shine, I think her name is. And this is like I like this little mini tank. I almost put a failed summoner, or not a failed summoner, a Pellicor Conjurer, I think it's called, the 2 mana mini tank, off tank. And that might have been better because it would have been more hit points. Watch what happens. Because they come at me pretty hard with the ambush, the double ambush with that Lorcus damage. And he's got the Cobalt Miner too, by the way, which hits like a truck. And they just rip through my back line, which I put there on purpose. It was like a triage monster that I would have been maybe okay with seeing go. I possibly should have put Ajax on the back line because he has the more speed and the dodge. Maybe. Because, but look, I missed him there. He should already be dead. Then that wasted a shot from him. Then I miss again. Somewhere. No, I missed a couple times anyways. But he's got a lot of hit points. Once you give the thing about Lorcus is Lorcus is pretty powerful. I have to admit it. But strong contender. He had everything. I had not everything. Let's put it that way. Then in my second boy versus Chip Boy, another 3 million collection power opponent. And this one surprised him. The direction I went with this one. This is a summoner I play more often than not. Or not, so more often than other people will anyways. And we get the scatter shot with the blast. So let's give some bombs out there, right? And I've got Axemaster, which I love. So we got the close range and double strike. So let's go ahead and equip him with the 2 more. So he's doing 5. We're hitting for 10, and it's a blast. Now he has a reflection shield over here, but I didn't know that when I picked my tactics. And this is a card I love as well, the Sultry Barmaid. It has the intrinsic ambush, so you don't need to attribute it. And if you can give yourself 2 more damage, you're now up to a 5 bomb. You're going to get that ambush phase attack for 5 with a stun potential and blast in this context. And then also you're going to have that round 1 attack, and he's got 4 speed base speed, which means he probably gets his second shot off. This ambush feels like double strike. If it's a short enough game, it might as well be. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to kill your opponent in the first or second round, ambush is so powerful, you could consider it like a double strike. So we survive the Cottrell Gobson in the first round with the double strike, but the triage doesn't quite heal us up enough, so we're going to die in round 2 unless we get lucky with the scatter shot landing in the right spot. Now, it doesn't quite land in the right spot, so we are going to die. But as you can see, things are looking pretty hopeful. In fact, I think I'm going to win this one. The double strike Axemaster with the buff is pretty crazy. Even though he had a reflection shield there, we just ate that 12 mana self-healing 4 mana card. Do you hear me? I'm gonna repeat that. His tank, what's his name again? Forget that tank's name, but it's a 4 mana self-healing, and with the new summoner whose name escaped, Tofu, the 2 extra hit points, it's crazy. And there was a strengthen on his team, 3 extra hit points. He has 12 hit points. What's his name again? This guy. Zenith Monk. So 8 standard hit points plus 2 is 10. Strengthen over here, brings you to 12. Self heal for 4. This thing's a beast, but we just gobbled it up with the Axe Master. Okay, skip to results, and we'll come back. See if we can see a couple more of those battles. One more, anyways. Oh, I got an opponent flea, dude. I got 3 victories with a flea, meaning I only really got 2 victories. But this is one of the points with guild brawls. You need to fill your phrase, and you need to submit your battles, because you don't know who's going to flee. And every flee is a victory, and every victory matters. I didn't see these ones, so let's watch this one, and I'm going to leave it at that. I got about another half an hour, guys. So let me know if there's anything you want to chat about. So Pelakari on the bottom with the kitty, and the demon shark with the melee focus. He's going to have crazy speed because of the kitty. I got the ambush, and I went ambush, I think. Where did I go? Let's see. Forget now. Yeah. Oh, what? For real, though? Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, he's got 8 speed in flight. That stings, because I just whiffed on 8 damage. Both of my Silver Shield Assassins missed with no poison because they didn't land. And then one of my Dampier, and he missed again too. And he missed again too. And he missed again. I've missed in the first, literally by the end of round 1, I missed 7 shots. Yeah, I mean, he had crazy speed, and the kitty helps. So, I mean, well done to my opponent. This card is so crazy. Like, Pelacor Bandit, still to this day, is just absolutely broken for what it offers. The speed, the damage, the mana cost. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I know you probably already have it because it's so cheap and so there's so many copies of it. But I think it's interesting how we complain about, you know, we want more players to come, and yet we want assets to be more expensive. So we want our cards to be worth way more money, and if our bags were higher, we'd be happier. But simultaneously, we want more players to participate in the game, and those are really 2 sides of the same coin, meaning one can't happen while the other is happening. Like, as we see new players, the card prices will go up. Before we see new players, the card prices will be low. But while the card prices are low, we should be excited that it's attracting new players. So we have to endure low card prices, at least assuming the game isn't going to die. And again, you always got to, I hate having to say that, but like, some people think, yeah, if I don't say that in every single sentence, I'm implying certainty with respect to Splinterlands' future. So it's like, what's probably the most actual logical stance with respect to investments in Splinterlands is an idea that, especially card pricing and SPS, it said, what was that? There's a famous phrase. It's like, the best solution to low prices is low prices, or the best solution to high prices is high prices. And the same for low prices, because I think that might be, who says that? Anyways, the idea is, if cards are really low, eventually people start buying them. Once they start buying them, that drives prices up because the supply erases. If cards are really high, or houses or whatever is really high in price, then people stop buying it. If they stop buying it, the prices come down. This is just a law of nature with respect to economics, and we should recognize this moment for what it is. Unless we think the game is going to die, these low prices are an opportunity. SPL should consider adding Rooney's 207. SPL should consider adding a scholar option for the card set, not just the rental. This way the team can market us to Southeast Asian players. This is a demographic that is lacking in SPL. Yeah, what would that entail? So you're saying, because there's a card market, or that you can create sets. Where is that available? I want to see that again. I see your comment, Dehoda. I'm going to look at that in a minute. SPL should consider adding a scholar option for the card set. Yeah. So you wouldn't just like list a card set. How do we do that? Is it in the market? Set rentals. So you would theoretically go in and you would create a set and you would put it up for rent. You can rent it or rent it. You can rent the 136 Chaos Legion starter set, or you can rent the Rift Watchers expansion set and jump into the action by renting a full set of cards for battle. All cards are owned by your fellow battle mages and all proceeds go directly to them. Each rental period lasts for remaining time of the current season. If there are fewer than 7 days remaining in the current season, the rental will expire at the end of the next season. Season ends in 8. That's clear. This feels clear and simple. Feels like a good step toward the future onboarding of people. But yeah, what I'm hearing you say is rather than when I go to create a set rental, if I wanted a set consist of cards taken from your collection that can be rented out to... Interesting. I should look at if I can do this. Can I? Autofill. Would you like to autofill the set? Previously chosen cards may be replaced. Okay, so I don't quite have a full... That's surprising to me. Maybe that's because of land? That's interesting. So you have to fill it out to... See, this is really simple. I like this. I need to have access to... I need to, like, I guess, have the other cards. But if I had the other cards, I would just, like, click that and then my set would go up and then somebody could borrow it. But instead of just putting it on the marketplace for somebody to eventually borrow, you're saying, I'm posting this and there would be, like, a third, maybe, instead of create, rent, or manage, there would be scholar. And so... you would click on Scholar and there would be Chaos or Rift Watchers expansion and you would have access to my set and the decentralized autonomous structure of Splinterlands would allocate the resources, SPS to me, to you, certain amount for you participating as the player and a certain amount to me as the owner. Yeah, man, that makes a lot of sense. Is that necessary though? I wonder, my one piece of pushback is, I think that would be cool, but I actually think that would be more interesting for us as big card holders and less interesting for players. You're right, it would maybe attract a certain young player base in Southeast Asia where money is not, and that's interesting. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just trying to like think it all through. It would be one sort of extra piece that they'd have to add. Yeah, I think that's a win. I think that's a good idea. And then I saw Dehoda dropped a comment. Splinterlands just announced changes to the new ability on the promo zero mana legendary Blasphemy of Uul ability. It was a great decision because of the ability that said Chaos Legion Fiends was strange. Yeah. So did they... Are you trying did they change the wording so that it's now any fiend or any, let's see. Permanently gain +1 range power for each allied 0 mana card from the Chaos Legion set. Yeah, that was weird why it said that. It should be, I guess, any set. It's not, and frankly, you know, or it should be the Rebellion set because it's the Rebellion card. Yeah, that's weird. So they're removing that, I guess. I will. Yeah, I'll pull up the... I wanted to see, just for everyone listening, I'm looking at this card because this hasn't been updated because I wanted to see how it was previously worded. But then we go to Discord and we'll see the announcement, I assume. Okay, we'll close this. Give me a sec. Okay. Notifications, no announcements. There. Royal Eagle says, blasphemy of Ool description update. We received many questions regarding the description of that ability, so we're making some clarifications in our next release. We will update this ability's description. It currently says permanently gain 1 ranged power for each 0 mana card from the Chaos set. It will be updated to permanently gain 1 range for each allied card named Fiend. Interesting. That's cool. This ability will apply to all current 0 mana Fiend cards, which may include other card releases in the future. I really, really like that upgrade. That's really, really cool. Let's go. This puts me on 2 different topics. First, maybe I'll circle back and I'll finish. Okay, I got to make a note so I don't forget. Card design, interconnection, then, okay, and then okay. So I think, oh yeah, promo card sales So I have 2 talking points that I want to address on this topic, Dahoda. Yeah, Dahoda says, imagine if Eleanor Bravefoot lost half of her ability in Modern when Chaos left Modern. That would be so bad. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a bit of an oversight. So that's a really logical tweak in design. There's 2 things I want to say about that. The first is, I haven't talked about these promo cards at all yet. And so I have opinions about them. And I guess I'll get into that. But then the second piece I want to talk about is game design and how this actually, to me, points in a really positive direction. Okay, so let's start with these cards. Now, these are the first of the promo release. There's going to be 4 more of these, I think. So 10 total promo cards. And I guess it'll be something like this where there'll be a rare, maybe a common, maybe an epic, and then a legendary, I bet. Or maybe some of the releases will be rare, legendary, and some of them will be epic, common. I don't know. But regardless, we're going to see more cards like this over the next several weeks. In fact, very, very rapidly. It's going to see a lot of promo cards. To me, these cards, I don't know. I don't consider either of these particularly exciting. Cleanse is cool. This is the first kind of cleanse rear guard that I've seen that's ever been released in the game. That's pretty interesting because you can use it in conjunction with taunts. Because so often with taunts, like you could put the Wave Brood in the back line. The Wave Brood has taunt and it's an archery monster. You put it in the back line. It's got void. It's quite resilient. It's big off tank. It can be a distraction. And then, but one of the questions is, if they hit me with affliction, I can't cleanse that. And so this is a response to that. This makes the Wave Brood a more powerful card. And because the Wave Brood is already a part of why Splinterland or the Water Team succeed, I would say that this card is interesting. Splinter Coach is a website that doesn't sponsor me, but that does give an interesting ability to view your Splinterlands assets in a new light. And so I really enjoy this card or this asset, and I pay money out of my own pocket to use this tool. And maybe you'd like it too. Check it out. The reason I bring this up is because I wanted to see the Wave Brood. I gotta look at the monsters. Monsters, and then I go Wave Brood. There it is. So it's my number lifetime. This card is my number 66th card, 66th most played card. It's been played 229 times and has a 432 win record. It's a kind of a low win record actually, but it is being played quite a bit in comparison to some of these. Like, look at some of these cards. Like, it gets a lot of play. And it's a pretty strong card in a lot of contexts, especially now that we have archery from the first position, or sorry, the only cards you can play is archery. That rule set makes this card more interesting. Let's see it. I can actually look at how it does in that rule set. Rule set. Arrows, broken arrow. It's not broken arrows. It's briar. I think it might be briar patch. No, that's thorns. What's the one with fire and regret? No. Keep your distance, I think. So it's 9 and 4 and keep your distance. Close range. 5 and 5. So anyways, the reason I bring it up is this is an interesting card. I play it quite a bit. I like it. You probably use it a lot too. And this card gets better if you have a card like this, because it's playable on the blue team. It's an archery unit. It can provide the cleanse if your taunt monster is getting afflicted. And that should allow more resiliency, which might mean the difference between loss and victory. So I do like Sanctus Vicar, but I think, you know, there's just no way I'm going to spend that much money on it. Like, to me, you know, and we can go to the calculator to figure this out, actually. Let's pop over there. So, with Vicar, I might rethink this page and I could do like my image smaller, and I could use a little bit of the web page that I'm looking at, because right now you can't see Vicar anymore on your screen, but that's okay. So Vicar is a card that sells for 3,000 credits per BCX or 3,000 DEC. So if we take the DEC figuration, we go 3,000 DEC per BCX, and it's a rare card, so you need 115 of them to get a max. Now you might say, I don't want a max. Well, I would want a max. And that makes it easier for me to give a frame of reference if I just kind of stick to that. So we're talking 345,000 DEC. And if we come in here and we find DEC, okay, DEC is at 743. Okay, it's peaking up a little. So then I always forget how we do this. So I got to take the 345. That's how many DEC. And I think I divide it by the factor, or times it. If I divide it, I think it's times by 0.000743. Yeah. So it's $256 US to get a max copy of that card. And I would say Sanctus Vicar is not worth that kind of money. 256 to me is just not worth it. Now, that's 256 at the price point of 700 Splintoshis, right? 740 Splintoshis. You know, if you think that DEC can get back to peg, then you're spending DEC that will appreciate meaningfully. I think it'll get back to peg. Therefore, I consider my DEC to be worth more than that. So buying a card like this isn't $256. It's closer to $350. And I think I made an interesting argument for why it's probably valuable on the blue team. And I didn't mention that being archery, it lends itself to partnering with that summoner that I already showed you I like playing. The new Rebellion summoner that gives the tactics for archery damage output. I don't know if I would necessarily want this to be my, dropping 2 extra damage on that. But the reflection shield could be interesting, because if there was a reflection coming at you, then you'd be more resilient. So it's a good card. And I didn't talk about the fire sort of connections or opportunities, but I think the bigger interesting plays are probably with the blue team anyways. So it's interesting, but I don't want it. And I'm definitely not spending $250 on that. If you go to the marketplace and spend $250 allowance, you could buy some crazy summoners. That's where I'd be looking. If I had $300 to kill and burn into Splinterlands, it's definitely not Sanctus Vicar, even though it's an interesting card. Eleanor Bravefoot, really cool actually. You get that strengthen, which is definitely important. For 0 mana, you're giving me a strengthen? That alone would be, if there was nothing else, I would like this card. For 0 mana and a strengthen, I would play that card. But then this is very interesting. 2 damage is interesting by itself. If this was 1 mana, I'd play this card. The Weary, of course, making it, giving you some probability of becoming exhausted. But Weary, especially on a backline card, is not the biggest deal. In my experience using Weary cards already, you know, they happen. They sometimes they will weary, but their advantage outweighs their detriment or their problem. So the abilities outweigh the disabilities. And so I think she's very strong. I think she's stronger than Sanctus Vicar. And I think being neutral means you partner with everything. I think this is much more of a desirable card. But then still, we're looking at a serious price point, and especially with the upgrade that's coming, moving it away from Chaos Legion set, but all fiends. So being neutral, you could pick Dragon, and you would theoretically... No, being neutral, you could bring at least 2 fiends in, right? Am I wrong about that? You get a multi Splinter Summoner, and you can bring in at least 2 fiends. And so you could go from 2 to 4 damage output. And maybe if there's other fiends being brought in the future, you could imagine this being like a 6 output card or something crazy. Picture an equal opportunity rule set where everyone has 10 hit points, and you've got 4 fiends, Eleanor Bravefoot, and 1 10 mana, 10 hit point monster. So now you've got 60 hit points because every one of them has 10 because of the equal opportunity, or the equal, yeah, I think it's equal opportunity. And then she'd have 6 damage output. So anyways, it's an interesting card, but again, price point, 50,000 DC. Oops. 50,000 DC times 11. 550,000 DC. So if you're looking at peg value, you're talking $550, or you go 0.00075 and you're down to $400. Is that card worth $400? Is that card worth $250? You know, if you come over to Peak Monster, you come in to buy, and you just go. In my opinion, right now, the most exciting things are within Rebellion. I'm looking at gold foils that are being overlooked. Like maybe Chaos Legion legendary gold foils would be something I'd be looking at. Like Lair of the Dark, $20 per BCX. I'm interested. I don't have it. I can't buy it. I'm interested. $20 for these gold foil legendaries. Yes, please. I'm interested. They're good cards. I play in Wild. They pay me bonuses. I think long-term, these will be scarce. They will not be these prices forever. I really believe that. You might disagree. That's my opinion. Then I'm looking at Rift Watchers, Untamed and Rift Watchers. Untamed and Rift Watchers, not gold foils, but regular foil legendaries. There are some amazing cards that have really low price tags. These cards used to be far more expensive, and I think they offer a great deal of utility. Rift Watchers is still playable in Wild for now, so there's that too. But from a scarcity perspective, Untamed and Rift Watchers are both similar-ish in sort of their print rates. And so, like Phantom of the Abyss has 6,500 BCX. Coral Lurker has 10,000 BCX. Not night and day. Runemancer, 10,000. What about Vigilator? 6,000. So about 40% more print rate or whatever. But it's not night and day. And so I'm interested in Rift Watchers from a utility perspective, from immediate gratification modern perspective, and long-term price appreciation, because they weren't over like crazy overprinted. But like I said, I'm even excited about Chaos for the right price, especially the gold foils. And then of course I'm interested in Rebellion because there's some amazing cards I don't have and I would love to have. I recently maxed out my Drath. I would love to get some. I sold my Tofus only because I only had 2 BCX, and I would love to have full. I don't want 2, I don't want 3, I want 11. And so I'll wait, and then I'll buy 11 from somebody who has 11 to sell. And probably I'll get a little bit of a discount off the market price. I sold mine for about $28. Looks like, you know, neutral. It's been up around 35. So I think this card's good. I think the price could go up. Same with Lorcus. I'm not interested in buying 1 or 2 or 3. I'm interested in buying 11. I'll buy 11 when I can buy 11. The same is true, by the way, for Jotun. I am still interested in Jotun. And look at, do you want a max level Jotun for $400, or do you want Eleanor Bravefoot? That's the same. It's the same cost. And I just go, I mean, I know it's not in wild, but to me, a Jotun is way more important. But here's the interesting thing though. Jotun has been going up in price a lot. Like, can we show it? Where does it show that again? There's a way to see that. Oh yeah, look at this. So 4-week average, $32 per BCX. Okay. 4 weeks, quantity sold 56. Okay, so it's not as bad as I thought. There's a 17% differential between our current price point. It's not as crazy as I thought it was. Let's look at Kitty, because I think Kitty has doubled or tripled. Look at this. Let's look at this. Am I on the right window? Nope, sorry guys, I'm on the wrong window. Come back over. I'm going to show you Jotun again. So Jotun has the $32 per BCX 4-week average, which means it's sold for less than that. Like this is $26 that is sold per BCX. So times 11, you're talking $300 for a max Jotun. That was 24 days ago. And at other times it's sold for more or less, but that's a pretty big discount in 3 weeks to go from $26 to $40 per BCX. So Jotun is appreciating. Byzantine Kitty, I think it's the same deal. Let's find out. So over the last 4 weeks, the average has been $35, and we're currently selling for $190 on a low buy, or $68 on a per BCX. That's a doubling of the price. That's doubling. Like I personally saw it, I think for $250 or something like that, or $290. Let's see. That one right there. A month ago sold for $22 per BCX, which would make it, if it was a max one, I don't know if it was a max one, would be $230 for a max kitty, which by the way, today is going to cost you $1,800 US, because you can't buy a max kitty right now. Now, if you wanted to buy a level 3, you could get it for $70 per BCX. But you see my point, man. These cards are scarce. They're desirable. They're impactful. They're being overlooked because people feel salty about what has happened in the past. They're feeling like, oh, everyone's leaving, Axler and, Bulldog and, I know John and Jane, they're leaving too. It's like, yeah, it's always been the case that there are going to be ups and downs in any cryptocurrency experience or space. Splinterlands has always been part of that conversation. Either you're here because you enjoy the process and you believe in the future, or not. It's so frustrating as somebody who talks about this and who thinks about it and who tries to help you guys think about it critically, to hear so many voices say the same general idea of sentiment scares me, I'm leaving. It's like, why was sentiment ever part of the conversation? You have to fight sentiment. Now, that doesn't mean, some of you think that means you should never sell, Dwayne. Dwayne just said, never, never, never sell. It's always going to fail, or it's always going to win. There's no chance of failure. No, nuance. There's a possibility of failure within Splinterlands, and yet there's reason to be hopeful for the future. And if you're hopeful for the future, the valuations of the assets should appreciate. Regardless of whether you're hopeful for the future or not, the way to determine your position should never be sentiment. It shouldn't be, what is the fear and greed index at today? Okay, I'm gonna sell now because the fear and greed index is low or high or whatever. That's looking toward like public sentiment. What are people saying? And it's like, what are you saying? What do you believe? Why do you believe that? Why is Splinterlands going to survive, or why is it going to die? Figure that out and then invest accordingly, and throw away the keys until something changes. Meaning, like if you buy into a game like this and you're enjoying the process, that's step one. That's the important part, because if you enjoy the process, you start to forget about the long-term investment and you don't care if you're making money. If you're just here for money, then you have to do this in an even bigger way, where you come to your fundamental consideration about what this game is and where it's going to go based on whatever calculations you make, and inputs that change that positively or negatively should be regularly considered. But absolutely, you need to fight against making sure that the inputs that are changing your opinion are not just sentiment. If SPS is at an all-time low and card valuations are at an all-time low and you're hearing people complain about how the game is dead, don't be surprised. That's sentiment shift. Don't let sentiment shift make your mind up for you. But if sentiment shifts because of a fundamental concern where Matt died and now the game is rudderless because there's no commander in chief, there's no leader who with a vision, there's no, maybe Nate's gone or investigator leaves, or now we're talking about fundamental concerns that are pieces of data that should inform your opinion. One is logical rethinking of your prior idea, and the other is a non-logic, emotion-driven response. I hope you see that. That's super important that we draw that line in the sand. And I only have about 6 more minutes, so I'll try and rip through some chat and just kind of spend some time with you guys here. See what you're up to. Leandro said that the 0 mana is too OP. Great card, neutral, and 0 mana. It's going to be used 50% matches, probably, for those who own it. But remember, with the price point being where it was, most people won't own it. And that means it'll be scarce, and that means it'll carry value, and that means it'll be an interesting investment, and maybe that means you should want to buy it. So that's the give and take. It's like, it's probably too expensive for most people to buy, which means it's, I'm not going to buy it. But it means maybe I should think about buying it because it is powerful, and it will be impactful, and it probably will be super scarce. And so that's the give and take. The Hoda says, if you use 3 slots with 0 mana cards, it might be too tricky to use the rest of your mana in the middle of the high mana matches. She will likely do very well in low mana matches. Yes, absolutely. Those 0 mana cards and the 1 mana cards open doorways for you when you would have no other sort of opportunities. That's the crazy thing, right? You can play them in spots where, you can field 6 cards and your opponent can field 3. That's crazy. That's when, it really impacts, right? That's where things can really go crazy for you. As we queue up another battle, I'll get back to the comments. Currently, this is better buy within. Rini 207, currently SPS is a better buy within the SPS Splinterlands ecosystem. GLX is the best for all Steam Monster Inc. portfolios. What do you know about GLX? Yeah, I'm not messing around with GLX. I have some. I'm not buying anymore. Birds, bees, and trees. Good to see you, bud. And then Rooney is responding to Hoda talking about GLX, and he says GLX fully diluted 1 billion versus SPS 3 billion, plus GLX gives more colony. If you take those into colony/Hive LP over the next 20 plus years, the A pair will be better than anything on your SPLE ecosystem. That's a real long-term vision for GLX. I'm not saying you're wrong, Rooney. And just back the napkin math, like sounds like you've thought that through and you're making sense to me. I guess my pushback on your calculations would just be around, if people are concerned about Splinterlands being, let's say, out there on the risk curve, I would say GLX is far, far further out there on the risk curve. Not saying that's a no. As I said earlier, all investments have risk. If they didn't have risk, you wouldn't have any room for potential growth. And so I'm not saying I don't agree with you, just saying I don't know if I will sort of go that path. But I would not be surprised if people who do really hit a crazy home run in the future. Maybe that's you. What else we got out there? Blood in the streets, right? Yep, that's right, Bree and Dave. Yep. If it's here for the long haul, then we look for the sales as an opportunity, not as a concern. We don't let the sales or the quote blood in the streets drive fear and concern in our hearts. We set that aside as an emotional sentiment, and we look at the price discounts from an objective perspective, as objective as we can get. has something about the game changed in a way where now my prior calculations on its probability for success has changed. If that calculation changes, maybe your final opinion about whether Splinterlands is going to succeed changes. That would be, right? That's why you should sell. If some new doubt sparks up and you go, oh, no, wait a second. I no longer believe it's going to be here for a long time. I no longer believe it's fun. I no longer believe it has a future. That's a calculation that I would sell upon. But currently, I believe this game is fun and has a future. I'm enjoying this game more than I ever have. I'm playing it personally. I'm leading my bot. I don't have more money to invest right now, but even that I'm scratching and clawing to do so. I told you I spent $400 on cards recently, $300 on cards, and then $100 on SPS. And so, yeah, man. And Rooney said, Bulldog isn't leaving SPL ecosystem. He just wants to rent more cards. He doesn't feel comfortable holding 5 digits. Yeah, Rooney, I saw the post. I did see one of my friends who's named Oscu, and he was in the chat earlier. And he said that the Bulldog account pretty much sold everything. Now, I didn't check this for myself. And frankly, if he did, I have no judgment towards Bulldog doing that. I respect him. So he said on X, he wasn't going to sell everything. He just wanted to sell some things. But I'm saying I have a friend who I trust said he sold most of it. So I guess you could go look at the Bulldog 1205 account and see what you see. I don't really care to audit that. I just wanted to raise that point in case you didn't know. Okay. Birds, bees, and trees. How about land? I saw your video on land. I talked about it earlier, birds, bees, and trees. I think we're looking at long-term delays with respect to the development of land. And that's because Matt's really trying to focus on providing the most important low-hanging fruit that will move the needle meaningfully for Splinterlands. And that is what we should want him to do. So Aggie made a lot of promises and sold a lot of things. Land 2.0 was part of that. Other projects were part of that. Matt has streamlined his efforts, and he's laser focused on developing the new player experience so that we get new player participation, so that we see a token appreciation, and we cannot have a growth within the ecosystem if we don't have a growth within the player base, and we will not have a growth within the player base if it's not fun and entertaining. And so he's trying to improve the fun and entertaining side of things, which incidentally will improve the reward side of things. And so I think his focus is in the right place, but land is not part of that focus. So if we talk about a 12 to an 18 month turnaround and delay with respect to land, what will that mean for land? Probably price decline. I'm okay with that. I'll want to buy more in that time. That's what I would say to you, Birds. Thanks, man. Rooney 207 says, asking about, Vilson asked, are you mostly in SPS? And he said, I've not put any more into SPL. I just allowed the assets to grow relative to ecosystem APR. I will be more concerned 2.5 years from now if SPS doesn't have its own an upward movement. Yeah, for sure. I agree, Rooney. We're talking about, we should within the next 3 years see hopefully a bull market, which drives de-seeded PEG and SPS higher. That should translate to SPS burning. If it translates to SPS burning, and there's a liquidity pool conversation, and there's this whole complicated thing. But if we get to a place where we start to see price appreciation, I think everything changes. And I think in the next 3 years, I think, yeah, we should really see something like that. Whether it's provoked because of a broader crypto market moment, or whether it's provoked because of SPS coming out of circulation, or whether it's provoked because of new game changes or development, or etc. Okay. There's so many comments today, guys, and I didn't get to hardly a fraction of them. But I hope you guys enjoyed the chat, the conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed, all the things we talk about. I hope you enjoyed being here with me. If you did, please, we received 100 messages today within Restream chat. 100. That's crazy. So do me a favor, drop a like if you enjoy the content. If you haven't already and you're watched the whole thing, especially subscribe to the channel. And if you want more content like this, I do weekly lives that are mostly for members only. So check out the members only content, check out the members only page, and get involved if you want. So it's one of the ways you can support the channel. And yeah, guys, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying Splinterlands. I hope you're enjoying the rest of your day. What's going to happen on this battle here? Master Shonuff versus Kezrin. Looks like Kezrin's going to lose, but at the same time, that man, Manthroth's such a beast, but this card and this card is so powerful, eh? Yeah, there, she's done now. Look at this, 19 hit points, 17 hit points, 11 hit points. This sustain meta with this, with Grimbarden and Bakjir, and like, it's just crazy. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks so much for all your time and attention. I hope you have an amazing day. God bless.